technical issues really, so I'm unable to connect my laptop to the internet. And it's funny, we're talking about internet fragmentation here, so I wonder if it's a kind of an internet fragmentation for all of us. So my name is Fahad Bataina. I come from Jordan. I work for ICANN, the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. So I cover the Middle East and North Africa. And with me on this session are my dear friends and colleagues from other organizations working in the internet ecosystem. So we have the Internet Society, and with us is Situ. Situ came all the way from India to talk to us about internet fragmentation from an Internet Society angle. And then we have my colleague Shafiq Shaya from the RIPE NCC. RIPE NCC is one of the 5 regional internet registries that distribute IP addresses. It's funny that Shafiq is actually from Lebanon, but he's not based in Lebanon, and he's not with us. So Shafiq, it really double counts in this case. So I'll try to maybe talk. I'll try to consume less time maybe on my presentation, just so that I can give more time for others, and maybe open the floor for questions. And of course, at any time, if you wish to interact with us, you're more than happy to do. We are more than happy to do that. So the session basically will talk about internet fragmentation. Different organizations probably see internet fragmentation a little bit different, but at the end of the day, it really means the same thing. Now, it's very useful to understand what the term fragmentation means. So we're not talking about the internet here, it's just normal fragmentation. And according to the Cambridge Dictionary, fragmentation is the access or process of breaking something into smaller parts. Now, if we go to the definition of internet fragmentation, you will definitely find many definitions outside there, so there is no one definition for internet fragmentation. At ICANN, my organization, we see internet fragmentation as the division of the global open internet into smaller isolated networks that may not be able to interact seamlessly with one another. Maybe I'll give a little bit of an explanation here. So the internet, you can always look at the internet in very simple ways as 3 layers. So at the bottom is the infrastructure, in the middle is the protocols, and at the top is the content. So we as ICANN, as an organization that is into protocols, we look at the middle layer. So anything that harms the middle layer is something we consider fragmentation. Of course, my colleagues from the Internet Society will explain their view on internet fragmentation and how things are. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that the internet has no borders, right? So there is no Lebanese internet, there is no US internet, there is no Jordanian internet. And the internet was built around something that is widely termed as permissionless innovation. So you don't need to get a permission to innovate on the internet. So when Facebook was launched, or when the Google search engine was launched, there was no permission. They just innovated and they went online. A very quick introduction to ICANN, my organization. So ICANN stands for the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. And our role is not to regulate the internet. We actually coordinate the functionality of something on the internet. This something is called unique identifiers. Unique identifiers in the world of the internet means domain names, like google.com, IP addresses, whether version 4 or version 6, and protocols. Of course, my colleague Shafiq will talk more about IP addresses. We might touch upon protocols, but our core business at ICANN is domain names, and there are 2 aspects to anything on the internet. You have the policy side, and then you have the technical side, or maybe you can say the technical aspect and the non-technical aspects. When ICANN was formed, it was formed to run, again, the unique identifiers. There was a term back then called IANA functions. So when you hear the term IANA functions, it really means the unique identifier system. So different terms leading to the same result. And I'm actually trying to move a little bit faster just for the sake of time. Our mission as ICANN is to ensure the stable and secure operation of the Internet Unique Identifier System. So security and stability of the Internet Unique Identifier Systems. And okay, so Shafiq, actually my slides are moving, and they are moving here in the room, so I do apologize. I'm not sure what's the technical issue there. I won't get into the details of what our mission entails, but it's written here for you. One thing maybe to note is that you will see the term coordinate at the start of point number 1, point number 2, coordinate, point number 3, facilitate the coordination, point number 4, coordinate, and point number 5, collaborate. So that's how the Internet organizations function. There's no one entity that runs the Internet. It's all about coordination and collaboration. We have an ecosystem of the Internet community, the ICANN board of directors, and the ICANN, the organization. So I work for the organization. Our policy development at ICANN is all about the Internet community. And if you ask me who's the ICANN Internet community, I will tell you anybody who's interested really in being part of this, this journey of unique identifiers. We embrace the multi-stakeholder model of governance. And that's a bottom-up, consensus-driven, community-based policy-making approach. So it's not top-down where governments come and impose policies. No, it's really the Internet community who builds these policies. Now, really talking quickly about why we use the domain name system. And I'll explain it in a non-technical manner so that you really keep it in your mind. Now, the Internet actually understands domain names. And why does the Internet understand domain? The Internet understands IP addresses. I'm just correcting myself here. So in order for data to move from source to destination, you need an address, right? It's like moving from this college maybe to, I don't know, some restaurant in somewhere in Beirut. So if you really don't know what's the address of the restaurant, it becomes a little challenging for you to move from here to that restaurant. You have a source address. If you have the address of the restaurant, you can move to that place. Same applies to the Internet. In order for data to move from one place to another, you need addresses on both ends, and of course many addresses in the middle. Now, why do we use domain names? It is a human reality that, okay, this is, it's buffer, okay.
You have to press and go.
Okay, the battery is almost dead. I'll use the other one. Yeah, no battery, it says. Okay. Again, a low battery. Okay, I mean, this could help us a little bit. So why do we use domain names? Because it's easier for us as humans to use names rather than numbers. We all have smartphones, right? So we store names of people and we connect it to a phone number. So my wife, my mother, my father, etc. So we don't remember probably their numbers, but we do know their names. And that's why we use also domain names on the Internet. It's easier to remember names. From a technical standpoint, this is how a translation from a domain name to an IP address looks like. It looks a little bit complicated. I can explain it, but really for the sake of time, I won't. If you are interested in understanding how this translation mechanism occurs from a domain name to an IP address, maybe you can talk to me. You're more than welcome to do that. I'm here for the next 2 days. Or you can just go maybe to YouTube and search one of those videos that talks about the DNS, how the DNS works, and you just get an answer. Now we come to the core of fragmentation. Now we'll be talking about fragmentation from a domain name system perspective at different levels. So one is called the root server system. Now what is the root server system? The root server system is the start of any. So we said, right, we translate names to numbers, correct? Now how does that translation happen? Where does it start? It starts at a system called the root server system. So the root server system is the global database that contains information probably related to domain names. And again, I'm trying to explain it in a simple way. I don't want to confuse anybody. Now fragmentation could happen at the root server level. We do have one root server system. It got disconnected, so no battery. Sorry. So we have one root server system that helps translate these domain names into IP addresses. Now what happens if we have more than one root server system? We really need to start connecting to these different root server systems. The question is, do we have alternative root server systems? We do. We all hear of blockchain. So blockchain has similarities with the DNS, but it uses an alternative root server system. And that's a discussion in itself. So having multiple root server systems causes fragmentation on the internet in a way that if I want to access a website on that is translated on this root server system, I have to connect to it. And if my next connection is to another root server system, I have to connect to the other root server system. It becomes too complicated, right? So we are jumping between different root server systems. So this is one method of fragmentation. Another method of, I don't want to say fragmentation, but I mean, the term that we use at the ICANN is called politicizing. So trying to use the internet as a political tool. Now when the Ukraine-Russia war started more than 2 years ago, probably 3 years ago, we received a letter from the Ukrainian government asking us to disconnect the Russian TLD from the internet. And so our response to them was that we are not into the business of regulating things, so we can't decide whether Russia deserves a TLD or not. And this goes really against our mission as an organization. So the answer was no, sorry, we really can't do that. There are many governments who are using the internet as a political tool. They're trying to politicize it, but for us at ICANN, we consider it as one indirect form of fragmentation. It doesn't break the internet, by the way. So when we talk about fragmentation, we are talking about breaking the internet in a way. Politicizing doesn't break the internet, but it gives people or different countries or different institutes favorable kind of treatment, and that's something we don't want to do. We want to be fair, and we want to deal with everybody on the same level. Maybe one noteworthy example of something that isn't, for us at least, isn't fragmentation, but it kind of goes against what is used on the internet, let's say. So there was this artifact that was built within the European Union called the Qualified Website Authentication Certificate. Now what it does is that it forces current web browser vendors to recognize it. So every web browser vendor must actually integrate this quack into their web browser. Now what was the issue with it? The issue with it was that it was top-down. So an institute in the EU built it, and they tried to force it through the EU into web browsers. Now that's against the policy or the method of governance on the internet, which is called the bottom-up. So what could have probably been a better solution or a better track for them is that they could have tried to promote this certificate with the community and discuss it with the community rather than just enforcing it on the web browsers. So this actually goes against the multi-stakeholder model of governance. Again, it doesn't break the internet, but it breaks the ethos and the spirit that the internet has been governed since its inception. Now, what can we do, for example, as a community? And again, I mean, even after my other presenters share their perspectives, they will also. I think all our recommendations will boil down to the same group of recommendations. So, one thing to keep in mind is that do keep an eye to such initiatives, and our organizations does do that. Coordinate with and amongst the different internet institutes. So we work a lot with the Internet Society, we work a lot with the RIPE NCC, and we work a lot with many other organizations. And more importantly, talk to policy and decision makers and explain to them how the internet functions technically. So one of the things we see a lot when we talk to governments is that regulations are built by legal people. In some cases, they would lack the technical understanding of how the internet works. They would try to translate legal frameworks in physical life into the virtual life, or let's say on the internet. And that's something that really doesn't translate in a one-on-one manner. I mean, cybercrime online is very much different than crime in the real world. So again, having these discussions with them, trying to explain to them how the internet technically functions, does help. That's it from me. I don't know, shall we take questions maybe now or maybe later? Later, fine. So with that, I'll hand over the floor to my dear friend Seti.
No, Shafiq.
Shafiq? Okay, so Shafiq, you're next.
Sure.
You can share your slides if you wish. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Fahad. Let me share my slides. I think you can see my slides.
Yes, Shafiq, you can. Go ahead.
Thank you, Fahad. Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you today. I'm sorry that I'm not in person attending this workshop, as I am in Dublin attending the ICANN meeting. And one of the sessions this week in Dublin was about internet fragmentation. So it's a timely and important topic that we will tackle today. Thank you, Fahad. Thanks for everyone, and thanks for Brad and Net colleagues for the invitation. I will go and talk about how this, why the fragmentation at the numbering level matters. And this can help us to know how the internet resources are coordinated globally. So at the top of the internet, we have what we call the IANA, the Internet Assigned Number Authority, which is part of the ICANN, that delegate the internet number sources to the 5 RIRs. You can see on the map, you have 5 RIRs. RIR means Regional Internet Registry, and I will talk about it in the next slide. So we have 5 RIRs that cover each one a certain geographical part of the world. We have RIPE NCC, ABNIC, AFINIC, LACNIC, and AREN. And these 5 RIRs are not-for-profit membership organizations. This distributed and collaborative model is what ensures that the internet remains consistent and globally interoperable. A quick background on the RIPE NCC. As my colleague Fahad said, we are one of the 5 RIRs. We were established in 1992 as a secretariat for the RIPE community. RIPE community is any individual that is in our service region, Middle East, Europe, or Central Asia. We are a not-for-profit membership association. Today we have more than 20,000 members across 76 countries. For example, in Lebanon, we have around 150 members. We have around 100 networks, and all these members are our. We serve them from the Dubai office in UAE. Our mission is simple but very crucial. So first, we distribute the Internet Protocol addresses, the Internet Protocol version 4 and the Internet Protocol version 6, and the network numbers, what we call the AS. Second, we implement the IP address policies that are developed openly by the RIPE community. And once again, as Fahad mentioned, it's not, it's bottom up. That means RIPE NCC doesn't make the rules. It's the community, it's you. Third, we support the infrastructure of the internet through technical coordination across the world with other partners. I'm trying to be a little bit quick in order to give time for any questions. So when we talk about fragmentation, and once again I agree with Fahad, the challenge is how to define fragmentation, what it means. But yet, its impacts are profound. So fragmentation is not about content control or data localization or digital borders. It can happen within the internet core functions, that means naming and numbers. The internet depends on unique identifier to maintain its reachability. Once again, Fahad explained, but once again, I will repeat it. So this identifier, these addresses for every IP address, every network number, every domain name is part of the one single global system. And these are identifiers, they cannot be duplicated or isolated. So if this happens, we will not have one internet. We will have many disconnected networks unable to reach each other. Oh, I skipped one. So let's take a closer look what we mean by the numbering system. So when we say numbering, we refer to the IP address, Internet Protocol address. We have two versions, the IPv version 4, IP version 6. I will not get into technicality, but the version 4 is limited resources and it's depleted, no more version 4 in the market. So we have the version 6. And we have the network numbers, which are the AS number. So these are the fundamental identifiers that allow every device, every network, every service to find each other on the global internet. And these numbers are not assigned randomly. So it's not like that. They were carefully managed and distributed by the 5 regional internet registries. And each RIR has its own policy, once again, agreed by the community. And this, by the way, this uniqueness of the identifiers, this allows the internet to function as a single interconnected network of networks. So why the RIR matters? Once again, the RIR system is what keeps the internet numbering system globally coordinated. And it's a model, open, bottom-up, transparent. The policies are not imposed from top down, from the governments. They are developed by the community itself. So each one of you in this workshop, including governments, operators, academia, civil society, private sector. So each one of you has a voice and an equal footing in the policy. So by preserving this model, we can safeguard the neutrality and avoid the numbering silos, which means avoid the internet fragmentation at the technical level. My last slide. We need to keep the internet one global open internet. So keeping the internet unified requires collaboration and trust to ensure that the technical core remains global and interoperable. This is very important. And this is my last slide. Thank you very much for your attention, and thanks, Fahad, for keeping everything working well. I know you had some technical issues, but finally here we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Shafiq. Maybe any questions for Shafiq, because he has to leave actually. Okay, all clear, Shafiq. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. I wish you all the best, and thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Shafiq. Bye. C2 is our last speaker, after which we will open the floor for Q&A. So C2.
So I'm not going to talk about fragmentation too much, particularly the term or what it means, because I think that's already been covered. Again, in the interest of time, I'm going to run through this quickly. So presenting what Internet Society thinks about fragmentation and how fragmentation is a fatal threat to the Internet as we know it. As we heard from Fahad and Shafiq about how Internet was founded on what principles, we value those principles very dearly. Just very quickly about Internet Society, it was founded in 1992 by people who invented the TCP/IP protocols, which is how we are able to navigate Internet. We advocate for open, globally connected, trustworthy, secure Internet. And our mission is to support and promote development of Internet and global technical infrastructure, working with organizations like ICANN and other organizations in the ecosystem. These are the three organizations which are part of the Internet Society umbrella, which is one of them is the foundation. The second is Public Interest Registry, which maintains the .org domain, and then Internet Engineering Task Force, where Internet standards are developed. We have many organization members, chapters, special interest groups across the world. That's 120. I don't know why that happened. That's so weird. But yeah, we have 120 plus chapters around the world, including here in Lebanon. If you are here, you can be a part of the chapter. Please talk to me after the session if you want to know more. So the purpose of this slide is to see what all is in the ecosystem. There are different elements to the ecosystem. There's Internet Society, there's ICANN, but there are other organizations and players in the ecosystem who are all contributing to running the Internet. This includes you as community and users. So this is, I would like you to pay a little bit of attention to this, because we're going to talk about how advocacy is driven in the region and around the world on issues like fragmentation. So all of these are key players which you need to engage with when working on a multi-stakeholder governance model and on issue like fragmentation. Very quickly, I'm going to wait. Where's the? Okay, yeah. Show you a little video. If it works. It doesn't work.
Watch video on
No,
YouTube.
you can just
Okay.
click on yes.
All right. No, it's
If you have internet connection, can you write the title on YouTube? Or it's hard?
wait, let's see. Will it work?
See, I have it saved. You want me to help travel to you?
No. Let me just
search it.
let me just use the. I can just search it because it's online. Sorry, I'll just use guess. Don't worry. You have to log out.
Complete technological failure today.
Oh yeah, here it is.
The internet is a global resource. Every day, people make decisions that impact who gets to use it where, how, and at what cost. But who gets to make those decisions? Who runs the internet? The answer is nobody. And everybody. Even you. But more precisely, no one by themselves. The internet is a shared resource and a shared responsibility. There are the nonprofits. Yes, the internet makes a lot of people a lot of money. But nonprofits have always been at the heart of keeping it running. There are the policymakers, from national to international governing bodies, from legislators to regulators to policy experts. Laws and regulations shape our daily experience online. There are the educators, the people who grow the capacity for individuals and communities to build, use, and support the internet. There's the technical community, made up of people who create and maintain the vast physical infrastructure of the internet, all those wires and servers and grids. There are the standard setters, who make it so that the millions of devices behind the internet work with your devices to provide a seamless online experience. Last but not least, there's you. Without you, there is no internet. People, users, are what make the internet interesting, through creativity, through ideas, through advocacy, and you can help defend the internet too. For the next 6 weeks, we'll be digging into how each of these pie pieces impacts the internet, and how the only way to make sure the internet is for everyone to be for the internet.
All right. Back to the presentation. Okay, so the reason I wanted to share this video was again to show that every single one of these players do impact on how the internet works and also on fragmentation. So at Internet Society we have a very clear and strong position against internet fragmentation. Our core stance is that internet is for everyone. It should be open, global, unified, and accessible to everyone. We view any policy or decision or action, whether well-intentioned or accidentally harming the internet as undermining the fundamental attributes which can contribute to fragmentation. So what are some of these key fundamental elements? So the internet needs 5 critical properties to work for everyone, which is accessible infrastructure with common protocol, open architecture of interoperable and usable building blocks, decentralized management and single distributed routing system, common global identifiers, and technology neutral and general purpose internet. And together these ensure that fragmentation doesn't happen, to protect the internet as a force of good, to use for freedom of speech, universal access to knowledge, and interoperability, and the ability to connect and collaborate freely across borders. So we already heard a little bit about that, what fragmentation is, and what examples. Some of these examples are shutdowns, national gateways. National gateway, imagine it as a toll checking point on the road, that you have to pass through this gateway, otherwise you can't. So imagine a gateway of internet data entering the country. So there's a gateway. If you pass certain checks, then only you can enter. So that is a example of fragmentation. Internet service bans, for instance, TikTok being banned in a particular country. For instance, India, where I come from, TikTok has been banned since 2019, 2020. And that is also an example of fragmentation. And then proposals like Centerpays. Centerpays is a bigger concept, I think, which warrants a different discussion, so I won't go into that. But then let's see what happens due to fragmentation. So fragmentation can create information bubbles, which basically means users may not be able to access global services or information, leading to information silos. Then uneven user experiences, which means the internet experience can differ significantly based on geography, nationality, or economic status. So the internet I might be using, you might not be able to use the same internet, or vice versa. Then there's limited competition and innovation. So fragmentation tends to stifle free flow of ideas and data, hindering economic growth and technological advancement. Then it complicates global challenges, like addressing global challenges like cybersecurity or climate change or COVID-19 pandemic. It's more complex due to lack of unified cooperation. And then fragmentation also impacts the economy, especially technology decoupling. which could significantly impact global GDP, trade, and financial cooperation. Now let's see what drives fragmentation. There are three major reasons because of which fragmentation happens. So one of them is political or state-driven. This can include shutdowns for any particular reason. For instance, in many places there are shutdowns due to prevent cheating in examinations. It's a very big blowback to a small problem. So it can be state-driven or politics-driven. It can be to control dissent. For instance, in Nepal, just a few months ago, the Nepalese government blocked all social media on a basically 2-day notice to prevent a discussion on corruption among the elites of that particular country, which led to violent protests. So yeah, it can be political. And then the second thing that drives fragmentation is commercial pressures. So like walled garden app ecosystems, for instance, Apple prohibiting other apps to be installed in their ecosystem, or zero rating offers, which means zero rating is a policy which is promoted by telecom companies. So if you have a zero rating in your country, you can use some websites but not the others for free or for a lower cost. For instance, the Internet.org program, which was started by Facebook, would allow many low-income communities around the world to use Facebook and Facebook services on the internet. So that is the entire internet for those users and nothing else. One of the biggest examples for this is Brazil. So for Brazilians, internet means Facebook, and Facebook means the internet. Facebook and WhatsApp. They call it Zap Zap because they can't say what in Portuguese. It's true. And then the third reason why fragmentation happens is divergent technical standards. So if there's no standardization across the board, this leads to fragmentation, which is why I talked about IETF earlier, Internet Engineering Task Force, and then ICANN, what ICANN does, coordination, which was used many times, is to make sure that there is standardization across the board. But if none of these things happen, then internet ends up looking like this. It's fragmented, and like Humpty Dumpty, there's no way to return to an open, globally connected internet. I'm very quotable, so you can quote me on that. Just going through two quick scenarios on fragmentation. So banning encryption, it's currently being a hot debate across the world, but particularly in EU, to ban encryption in the name of child safety mostly, but then on national security. So these are some of the situations and then responses and how it impacts on fragmentation. You can take a picture or we can share the slides later on. I just want to run through them quickly so that we have time for questions in the end. The second scenario is content blocking at infrastructure level. So mandatory content filtering by DNS or IP. So for instance, if you use a particular operator like Touch here in Lebanon, so the government mandates Touch to block every mention of Canada, for instance, and then they have to do blocking and filtering on their level. That is also an example of fragmentation. One of the major examples was the Russia example that Fahad already mentioned, in which ICANN, ISOC, and other organizations collaborated to ensure that fragmentation doesn't happen. Did you talk about Splinternet after the Russian? No. Okay. We can skip that. So, but there is hope. There is hope. ISOC, ICANN, and other organizations are committed to defending the internet against decisions that could fragment. So we are advocating for the internet, and we want you to do the same thing. We can create it. What can we do? How can we do this? So we can do this by educating the policymakers, by raising awareness on importance of open and global internet. We can work with advocates, activists, encouraging global advocacy against fragmentation. So coming here, this is one of the things that we are doing. So you are all potential advocates and activists for an open internet. So we are talking to you, explaining to you, and hopefully you can replicate the same in the future. We are building public narrative. You can do the same. You can promote necessity of why it's important to have an open and interoperable internet. We provide tools like Internet Impact Assessment Toolkit and Internet Fragmentation Explainers to help analyze and resist policies that could lead to fragmentation. So there are sometimes policies or decisions which might look like they are well-intentioned, or they might be well-intentioned, but then inadvertently be causing fragmentation. So these tools help you understand whether whether a policy or proposal can cause fragmentation. And then we also monitor threats, tracking policies and business decisions around the world to which threaten open internet. You can also do the same. You can flag it, you can report it. One of the tools that I talked about is the Internet Impact Assessment Toolkit. It's very much similar to environmental impact assessment, but for the internet. It helps us, you, advocates, and the governments to stay informed and take good decisions and prevent fragmentation. Some places where we've had impact are listed, like Canada Online News Act, South Korea Interconnection Rules, Indian IT rules in the recent years. We also support building internet resilience against fragmentation by supporting new and existing IXPs. One example is supporting the Beirut IXP in 2025 or 2024, yes. And then IXPs around the world, we support community networks, which are independent IP internet service providers and work very independently. And then we also enhance local technical skills around the world. So you can access the Internet Fragmentation Explainer using this QR if your internet is working. If not, you can still scan it. You can load it later on. But the general idea is that the Internet Society views fragmentation not as a distant concept, but it's a reality. It's an ongoing process. It's with immediate consequences to individuals and businesses and global society. So we are committed to protecting and defending an open, unified internet, and we hope you can join us. So yeah, thank you. Questions? Yes.
So thinking about internet fragmentation from an aspect of it's something that's happening to something that we have a role in stopping. Do you think that I'm thinking about it from like a media literacy lens, would it make sense for us to kind of suggest introducing countering internet fragmentation into media literacy programs? Because I think media literacy is going very viral within school curriculums.
Yeah.
There's a lot of protocols, I don't know the name in English, but like national strategies that are being framed. And I don't think I've ever heard about internet fragmentation being mentioned, probably because a lot of it is happening through the government.
We also have online programs that you can participate in and build your own capacity at your own pace on any number of topics that you might be interested in. So everything from encryption, fragmentation, to internet standards, you can learn all about it.
Yeah.
Similarly, ICANN also has these courses which you can take from home.
I actually have a question for ICANN.
So maybe before you ask a question, can I maybe just add to what Sita mentioned about on your question? So I think this part of education really depends. And at the end of the day, what you're looking for is really a good end result. Now, I think if you try to, so introducing maybe the concept of internet fragmentation into curriculum is not a bad idea. But internet fragmentation can really take like different postures, if you may say. In some instances, it's really good to talk to the policymakers. So if a government, let's say in country X, is trying to introduce a legislation that could really fragment the internet, then having a conversation with those legislators is the best way to really come out with a result. Now, on the other hand, sometimes it could be the technical community who comes out with an initiative or maybe the business community who comes out with an initiative that could really cause some sort of fragmentation on the internet. Now, if you remember my slide where I mentioned permissionless innovation. So the internet is really open for anybody to innovate. Now, in that case, you can't really hinder the innovation. Maybe one good example is blockchain. So we all use, okay, not everybody uses blockchain, but we all know what blockchain is, right? Now, actually what blockchain does is that it uses an alternative naming space. And that's different to the root server system that we use. Now, do we say that blockchain is bad? No, we don't say that. We just say that, okay, it's a technology out there. It is using an alternative root server system. You need to understand that this is how the current root server system, the global root server system functions. But at the same time, we also need to tell people that, hey guys, if you see a domain name with the extension .eth, that means Ethereum, and that's maybe in the blockchain. So it's not really the root server system that we are using. So this again circles back to education, but not necessarily education maybe at the school level or at the media level. It's really education at the level where you're targeting a specific stakeholder group and telling them, okay, this is how this functions really. I'm not saying that education is bad. No, I'm totally with education. But maybe you can take it at several steps. On one step, you have to maybe minimize the harm by talking to the relevant people and explaining to them technically maybe how things work. And then as a second level, maybe you can say, okay, we need to educate the general public on some aspects.
So, sorry, just to
Sure,
clarify,
sure.
I think what I'm getting is there's like a long-term solution where we can start integrating this into curriculum, so on and so. But right now, there needs to be more short-term thinking about who's impacted and who has the power to actually make this.
And you know, general education, maybe just, I don't know, maybe a subject, maybe, or let's say a chapter every academic year that talks about how the internet functions. So if you tell people, or if you teach students what IP addresses are, or how the domain name system functions, or what's the root server system, I think these are general terms that would stick in their head. And so when you start talking to them about some of the emerging technologies like blockchain, and you tell them it's an alternative naming space, you would say, okay, well, I did learn that the root server system is the general root server system, and then that blockchain is using something alternative. So yeah, I mean, education eventually
So we
is
can get to a
helpful.
point where they have the building blocks.
Exactly, 100%, exactly.
My question
Sure.
for you is, do you offer the services that he was mentioning in Arabic?
So we try to offer as much content as possible in the 6 year language. Okay, so English is standard,
Yeah.
right? So we try to utilize the other 5 year languages where possible. And we sometimes also introduce things in content in Portuguese, but unfortunately English still prevails for many reasons really. I mean, I can give you an example. So sometimes we do events in our region and we bring in interpretation to realize that 0 people have used the interpretation, or maybe 1 person out of 100 has used interpretation. So you would have consumed a lot of money, a lot of resources to bring in that interpretation for people to eventually not use. So it's a tricky thing really. With the introduction of AI, we've started using AI in some of our services, I mean translation services. But again, that's more on like super on demand.
That's not good news for the 2 ladies there.
Any other question? I think we're already out of time, but any other questions?
Okay, thank you so much.
All right.
All right, thank you for attending. I hope you found that useful. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.